Hello, Jess here for Hero Arts with a quick and easy Hanukkah card using a variety of techniques that are perfect for adding dimension and texture to your cards. To start, I prepped my materials by placing the festive star and bauble stencil on a piece of scrap copy paper. I also prepped my cutting pads for dry embossing. Each die cutting machine is a little different, but usually when you're dry embossing you'll need an embossing pad. Because I'm also inking my stencil, I placed a second piece of scrap copy paper over the embossing pad to keep it from getting inky, and then placed a scored A2 card base on top. Once everything was prepped, I inked my stencil with Silver Shimmer Delicata ink. I carefully held the stencil down with one hand and pressed the ink pad into the stencil with my other. I didn't want the edge of the stencil showing, so I placed another piece of scrap copy paper over the scored center fold of the card base. Then I carefully placed the stencil over the card base, inked side down. I covered that with my top plate and ran it through my die cutting machine. When you remove the stencil, you're left with the impression of the stencil dry embossed into the card panel, and the ink transfers into that impression, which gives the look of letterpress printing. I blasted it for a few seconds with my heat gun just to make sure the Delicata ink wouldn't smear. Next, I placed the menorah die from the Happy Hanukkah set in the top third of the panel and used a piece of washi tape to secure it. I opened the card base and ran it through my die cutting machine to die cut the shape of the menorah from the card front. Next, I placed the card base in my MISTI and lined up the menorah stamp from Happy Hanukkah inside the die cut area. I closed the lid of my MISTI to pick up the stamp and then opened the card base. I added the sentiment to the lid of my MISTI below the menorah and then inked it with Versamark before heat embossing it with silver embossing powder. Then I took a piece of dark blue cardstock and stamped the Happy Hanukkah greeting with Versamark and heat embossed it with silver embossing powder. I trimmed this down to a label for the front of the card and used foam mounting tape to adhere it. Finally, I colored the flames of the menorah using Copic markers and finished the card by adding Spectrum Noir clear sparkle to the entire menorah. Of course, this is a Hanukkah card, but you could easily use these same techniques with different stencils and dies to create a variety of cards for different occasions. You can find more information on the products I used today at the Hero Arts blog, and there's a link in the YouTube description below. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, have a fabulous day and happy crafting!